Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wake the People. Today I'd like to discuss what I see as the subversion of our collective minds by the global powers that be. I'll discuss the reason and the methodology that is being used, specifically in the United States, so that you'll be aware and be able to counter their efforts for your family and for your community. The definition of subversion is the undermining of the power and authority of an established system or institution. However, when I talk about subversion, I'm not just talking about a system or an institution. I'm also talking about the attempt to take over your biology, your culture, and your environment, individually and collectively. Let me explain. According to this chart created by Dr. Spencer Holman, in order to change a group of people, one must simultaneously change their biology, culture, and environment, affectionately known as a bioculturon event. Biology encompasses all of the genetic composition, anatomy, predispositions, physiology, physical characteristics, behavior, temperament, origin, and heritage contained within a person. Biology refers to everything that is innate, naturally occurring within a person, and determines one's basic human needs. A person's biology is adaptable to all environments in which they live, grow, and work. Biology dictates a person's ability to develop cognitive and emotional intelligence. Keywords to consider when examining biology are genetics, individual personal, reproduction, physical, morals, core belief, and nature, meaning how people think and what they feel. Culture is influenced and shaped by shared practices in a society to create the harmonious functioning by a group of people. Culture serves to unite and strengthen people by understanding how and why things are done in a particular way. Culture is the learned element in a society that contributes to identity. It is not static, but changes and influences changes in people. Keywords to consider when examining culture are society at large, influence, ethics, unwritten policy, and politically correct. Basically, what people do and how people act collectively as a group. A key factor in American culture is that people tend to react in groups more so than individually, which is a trait spurred on by the government school system's groupthink training. Environment includes everything that surrounds individuals or groups and affects where they live and grow. Environment is the sum total of the surroundings and conditions in which people experience life. It includes physical, chemical, soil, climate, and all living organisms. The collective balance of all of these factors can determine the survival or demise of parts or all of the ecology. Keywords to consider when examining environment are legal, law of the land, structures, housing, institutions, industries, transportation, hospitals, businesses, banking, schools, municipalities, cities, states, and governments. Bioculturons are a trifecta of transformation, the achievement of the synergistic effects of biology, culture, and environment as they simultaneously interact to produce the energy needed for full transformation of a group of people, regardless of whether the outcome is good or bad. In the case of the attempt by the powers that be to transform our collective minds, the outcome is deadly, as they are attempting to make us into sheeple. The elites are using the manipulation of our biology to create a toxic culture. Then society uses culture to shape the environment. And finally, society makes the environment conform to its biology. Historically, there is no separation between these three entities. None is better or has more influence over the other. and all three interact fluently with one another, while all three are changed by one another. I've learned that by using biocultiron events, the powers that be want to bring we the people down to a level where we can be easily controlled. When the powers that be are able to control the masses, like they do in other countries, then their diabolical plans can come to full fruition. It is my opinion that their plans have escalated to a whole new level since 2020. There are several schemes being used to subvert our collective minds. I'll highlight a few of them and give brief descriptions of how they work. First, they use the old divide and conquer mantra. By using systemic racism, the elite keeps the races fighting against each other, constantly using mainstream media to highlight cultural and financial racial disparities and perceived racial superiority and inferiority to keep tensions heated, many times bringing tensions up to an explosive mode, as was demonstrated in the summer of 2020 during the onset of the pandemic. By highlighting religious extremism, they keep the different religions on edge and reluctant to deal with each other at all. One group is portrayed as terrorists, the other group as woefully ignorant, and still another group as greedy thieves. They even perpetrate fighting among the different sects or denominations within these religions, sometimes to their own annihilation or their utter embarrassment at the least. The political divide is the most conspicuous, though. In the U.S., the elite fight to maintain a two-party dominance because they know there isn't a drop of difference between the two camps. They have the people thinking that the promises the blue or the red make while campaigning will be kept. But each year, each term, it's proven that all their mouths are doing are pushing out lies, and the common people keep going backwards financially, educationally, and health-wise. Studies show that Americans are worse off in several different categories than they were 2 decades ago, and that the younger workers will be in worse shape than their boomer parents and grandparents because the politicians do the bidding of the corporatocracy and neither of them gives a rip about us. Another way being used to conquer us is by thinning out the population. The elite promote the deletion of children, especially in the black community. Your first homework assignment for today is to go and look at how a witch named Margaret Sanger got this particular vile tactic into the mainstream. The elite also promote destructive eating habits as they advertise fast food and soft drinks regularly while covering up the dangers of sugar and sugar substitutes in your diets. Your second homework assignment is to go and watch a documentary called Sweet Misery, A Poisoned World. Even now, the World Economic Forum is actually pushing the elimination of real meat while promoting the eating of fake meat and even bugs. Don't believe me? Go research it for yourself. Right now in the Netherlands, children are being used to spread the virtues of eating mealworms and insects as viable meat substitutes. The war on drugs has also had a devastating impact on people all over the country. This so-called war brought in more deadly drugs and laundered more money than the kingpins could have ever done in a decade. And don't forget the pharmaceutical companies that knowingly assist people in becoming addicted to prescription drugs. When Big Pharma gets caught and brought to trial, which is rare, they already know they'll just receive a small pat on the wrist as people from all over lose their lives and families because these companies don't care about anything but money. In addition to thinning out the population, the government school systems are being used to dumb down the population, making the U.S. a laughingstock all over the world. The Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA for short, shows that U.S. high school students lag way behind the students of 10 other countries, including China, Singapore, and Japan. And we're falling farther and farther behind each year as the woke culture makes being smart socially unacceptable. Athletes and entertainers are paid millions of dollars every year by the corporatocracy to keep the masses entertained with bread and circuses, while those that are charged with the education of our children are steeped in student debt and often don't even earn enough to make ends meet. Also, there is a complete lack of proper financial education on behalf of young and old in the U.S. In secondary school, most students never learn how to budget their money or how to balance a checkbook, so many of them run straight into debt before even graduating from high school because the banksters are now giving high school seniors credit cards. And adults aren't even taught how to save or invest, so they end up with little savings and profitless investments. U.S. Census Bureau data shows that the median retirement income for retirees 65 and older was $46,360 a year in 2020. These people have to depend on their friends, family, and charity because with housing, gas, and food prices as high as they are right now, they wouldn't be able to afford to buy anything to eat besides cat food. Another area that the elite uses to subdue the masses is to promote immorality to corrupt the minds of our youth. Television, radio, and other media sources used to be wholesome. Long ago, I remember hearing an actor say that it was a privilege for them to enter our living rooms every night. Now things are different. Media, which is owned by the elite, is bent on destroying the morals that us older adults were taught as children. Instead of dressing modestly and acting dignified, they promote horror culture and letting it all hang out for everyone to see. Even your current leader, Hunter Biden's dad, selected a woman that's one of the queens of thought culture, Cardi B, to interview during his campaign, instead of selecting a decent, hard-working person of color. There are millions of them out there that he could have picked. And you think this is just a coincidence? The elite, via the media, awarded this nasty woman with Song of the Year for an abomination called WAP, a totally disgraceful song and video. But they canceled the cartoon character Pepe Le Pew, saying he was an S-word predator. How crazy is that? You've got songs about young church women smutting themselves out on Saturday night while making sure they're at church early the next morning. At the same time, there's never a mention of the self-deletion rate of these young girls as their lives spiral out of control because they're trying to measure up to the foolishness that they see in these explicit videos. And you have millions of children that know all of the lyrics to rap songs, but they can't read, write, or do math. So they'll be out on the streets at 17 or 18, getting into all kinds of trouble. If you didn't know that these scenarios are all by design, you've been living under a rock. Finally, the most important method being used to topple the house is to destroy the family. I placed this method last because I really want you to focus on it. Their main devices over the last 6 decades have been feminism, the welfare state, and the war on drugs. Feminism may have seemed like a good thing in the 1960s, with women gaining the right to have bank accounts and go to college. But because of greed and jealousy, it quickly turned first into a competition with men, and now feminism has women wanting to be men, wanting all of the exact financial and sexual stances that men have had over the years. Many women are masculine, combative, and overall difficult to get along with. And the onslaught of feminism has come with a dramatic rise in divorce, single motherhood, and the emasculation of our men, all of which decimate the family and cause the country to spiral into utter chaos. Social entitlements especially hurt the black family, as black men were not allowed to be in any home that received welfare. Many black women chose the welfare check with no accountability over being under the authority of their husbands in the home and being a family, and we suffer for those decisions every day as we see all over media. The welfare state was a direct assault on the family, as welfare could have been structured to help the entire family, with the man in the house working to build up his family's lifestyle with a little short-term assistance where needed. Let me get down off my soapbox before I get started. Then came the war on drugs. This was a very clever name to describe the proliferation of drugs that were sent flooding into the inner cities and ghettos starting in the 1970s and 80s. With this incursion of drugs, especially in communities of color, there began to be an increase in prison sentences for small-time dealers and users, all to build up the prison industrial complex while enriching those elites that were flying in the drugs. You all know who they were and who they are now. Many lost their lives and many spent decades in prison, and the corporatocracy is still making a killing in this manner. May God judge all of them accordingly. There are a lot more methods being used to subvert our collective minds. I'm sure you can think of some, so please add them to the chat below. I've covered a lot in this video, and I really want people to come out of their states of cognitive dissonance and not only realize what's happening to them, but be emboldened to do something about it. In the next few videos, I'll be discussing solutions to counteract the evil that has been brought to bear upon people worldwide. These solutions will be practical and affordable ways to keep your life on the thriving path while you work with me to help other people wake up. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below as to your thoughts on the destruction of our collective minds. Thank you for listening, and let's all wake